And if any motherfucker says a 4G63, get out of the car. Get out. Alright, today we're going to be explaining why the VQ35 HR is so good. First, I think we should sort of explain the different VQ35 family. So it started out with the DE. Now, well, it was alright, I guess, you know? Then they upgraded it to the Rev Up version. Now this is universally considered to be the worst, because this thing drinks so much oil, you know? It drinks more than Uncle Sam last New Year's. And then Nissan came out with a revised version, the VQ35 HR. So to put this in perspective, right, the HR had 80% new parts compared to the last VQ35. The VQ37, the 3.7 litre, only has 20% new parts compared to the HR. It was a big change. What did they do to it? Well, this thing revs 1000 RPM higher, which is great for running over dogs. It's also way stronger, it can hold more power, it's got a better power curve, unlike your mum, and it's a lot more reliable. There are some sort of common opinions on them, right? First of all, being that people think that they drink as much oil as you drink coke.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Now, that was the DEs. They did have that problem. The HRs, that problem was fixed. Another thing is the sound. People think they sound as bad as, you know, like a second grade band at school. Some owners make up for the lack of brain cells with decibels. I put a straight pipe on that bit. And yes, that does sound like crap, but you can get them to sound very good, like this. Reason number one is got to be the strength and how much power it can hold. Stock 311 horsepower, which is pretty damn good, especially for an NA engine. Unopened, these can hold 500 wheel horsepower in stock internals. To put that in perspective, that's about the same as 17 Boeing 747s.
Bruh.
You know, that's unlike a Subaru, where if you don't get a tune for the new gear stick you just put in, this thing's rods won't join fucking SpaceX. If you do have a VQ35 HR, so do I have a G35, consider subscribing, and it's getting pretty damn hot on this car. I just tried to record this before, and the camera overheated, so... Next reason is the delivery. There is no inhaler on this pilot. Nope. It just breathes in a bunch of air because of its big nose holes and big lungs. Yeah. What does that mean? That means this thing has got no lag. No matter what gear you're in, what RPM you're in, you just put your foot down and this thing goes. Right? You could be, you know, in 5th gear and still do 0 to 100 in 2.3 seconds. There's so much mid-range power, you know, you just put your foot down, it feels so muscular. Unlike a lot of the Hondas, you know, you put your foot down, not much happens. VTEC kicks in, not much happens.
Bruh.
It's a joke, I like Hondas, I actually really do. Not hating, just... One little critique, the power curve sort of goes like this, you get to about 6800 RPM, and it continues rising, but just not as much. I'd like to see it just keep going like that. Now really it isn't that bad, you know, the speeds always go up, and they go down. So it's not that bad, just a small little critique. Another thing heavily overlooked, because the population is getting so fat nowadays, is weight and weight distribution. You know, you could dump a fat LS or a fat JZ into a Miata, but now you've got 90-10 weight distribution, and it handles like a fat pig. You know, you got a VQ engine with its alloy block and its alloy head that's still making good power, and it still weighs like 180 pounds less than those fat f***s. If you think about it, 180 pounds, that's like 17 full-size adult elephants. And, you know, because you got a V shape compared to an inline shape, the weight is slightly lower, so it's got a lower center of gravity. Science. Another good thing about these engines that make them so great is how high they rev. They're meant to rev to 7600 RPM, though I'd be lying if I said that I haven't caught mine lacking at 7800 RPMs in 4K. Not sure it was meant to do that, but it did. put that in perspective, that's nearly 8,000 RPM. That is pretty damn high. When you think about it, RX-8 goes to 9,000 RPM, basically the same. But of course, you got to round to the nearest 10, so that's 10,000 RPM. Then you got to carry the one from before, so that's 12,000 RPM. Then, you know, you got to think, a Yamaha R1 revs to 14,300 RPM. So basically, the VQ35 HR revs to 69,000 RPM.
Bruh.
That's crazy. And why is that good? The higher it revs, it feels smoother, it feels a lot more exciting, a lot more dramatic. It just makes the engine feel alive. Another reason, reliability. HRs are pretty damn reliable. You know, you could in the oil and water down the fuel and it doesn't really give a shit. Another reason, sound, right? You know, straight pipe doesn't sound good. You know, the intake sound on this. Put just a pod filter on it like this. You know, you put your foot down past 30% throttle and the intake starts to howl like this. The exhaust noise, sounds so exotic. Sound, if you do it right, so good. I want you, right, to try to think of an engine that's this light, that can hold 500 wheel horsepower, that can rev this high, delivers power in such a smooth, linear, muscular way. And even if you can, which you can't because the VQ35 HR is actually pretty damn good. You know, this thing's a V6. What does that mean? It means it's only 3 cylinders long. That's a pretty short engine. That can fit in a lot of engine bays. It also means that since it's shorter, it sits further back in the car, like this, you know? So, weight distribution better again. And if any motherfucker says a 4G63, get out of the car. Get out. Leave. That moved the camera a bit, sorry. Personally, I think the 4G63 might be one of the most overrated engines for a normal person like you and me. So, you know, they constantly have issues. I have not seen a single 4G63 that is reliable. You know, if you want to go past 370 wheel horsepower, you have to open the engine for head studs. They sound like just an underscript 4-cylinder. Don't sound that special. Usually they're laggy as hell. You know, sure, they're great for a 4-cylinder for being pushed, you know, 1200 wheel horsepower and drag raced. Yeah, sure, they're great at that. But who does that? For 99% of people who, you know, stay under 600 wheel horsepower, a 4G63 is just overrated. I'm not saying it's bad, it's just overrated. Like, you know, it's just my opinion. Fight me if you want, that's what I think. If you enjoy, consider subscribing. If you got a VQ car, consider subscribing to me because I got one too. And that's it. Let's see you next time.